Alright you guys, and welcome back to a brand new sculpting video. And this week we're gonna go back, far back actually, since we're gonna be traveling all the way back to 1969. Since it was during September that year that a big cat, but pink, has been spotted for the first time. And now, hear me out, before all of you cartoon nerds comment.
Well, actually, his debut was in 1963.
I went with the TV show release, since I just like that number more. And now, 40 seconds into the video, I feel like it might be actually the right time to tell you what I'm going to sculpt in today's video. But hey, yapping for a whole minute before telling the audience what the video is all about fits exactly my style. So, spoiler, I'll be sculpting the Pink Panther, but he's realistic. And as you all know, I'm pretty much ripping off North of the Border here, since he's widely known for his realistic cartoon and game characters. And since this series was his recipe for going viral, and I'm extremely desperate, I basically just copied it. Anyways, with all the pointless justifications out of the way, let's actually focus onto the sculpting, since after all this actually is a sculpting channel. So I'm gonna just speed through everything you just saw. I started out with some aluminum wire, which I covered in some foil, added a belly onto that, then we went down to the legs, where I gave him some skinny but defined muscles. And that brings us to the head, where I'm currently at now, after adding his snout, blending in his big forehead. And with his forehead blended in, I can give him some cheekbones. Now, I do not know if that's the correct placement for panther cheekbones, but I just couldn't be bothered to look it up, so it was more of an assumed placement. Basically, I just went with the vibe. I then added his two eyes, and here I wanted to give him some pronounced eye bags, since that's what panthers got nowadays, I suppose. Anyways, after adding his ears, we're on to making the arms, where I'll start off by poking a hole for the wire to be pressed in. Said wire will get covered in some clay, onto which I can then add a elongated wiener working as his bicep. The second arm will get a similar treatment, but since this one is a bit more bent and will be holding something, I made this bicep a bit more flexed. And since your natural holding capabilities after all come down to you having hands, I added two paws which will both end up holding something. And with just 4 fingers each, they were actually quite doable. And once they're blended to the arm, I can press them into my pre-made shoulder holes. And since everybody used to smoke in the 60s and 70s, I also made him a cigarette and a cigarette holder. And once it's been placed between his fingers, I can set the panther aside for now and get started working on a base. And since I wanted to keep it simple for the base, I just turned a big testicle into half a testicle, onto which I can then press the sculpture in place. And after checking how long I want his tail to be, I'll go ahead and cover some more wire with clay, which I'll then press into his butt. Ooh! And the final sculpting step is gonna be connecting the wire from his feet to the base, which I'll do by just adding a set of 2 feet. And after adding some more medial and lateral details, he's all set for the oven. And those can't be normal cigarettes he's smoking, since he came out of the oven completely baked. Anyways, after straightening the bottom of the base, my studio now looks as if I'm a drug addict myself, but I promise you, I am not. Which now brings us to painting the bad boy, or should I say the pink boy. And with the jokes reaching new all-time lows, I can work my way around the whole body, covering it in said pink paint. I can then grab the never disappointing sponge, which I'll use to sponge on some lighter highlights. And after finding the worst filming angle for painting the nose, I can grab myself a dark pink wash, which I'll apply heavily all over his body. And after filling every crack of his body, why do I say shit like that? I can get started painting the base, which in order to keep it simple will receive a brown once over. And to the top I rise to paint his eyes. Damn, I probably should have went with a poetry channel. Anyways, after questioning my life decisions, where you probably could also start in 1969, I added a dry brush using the sponge. And then we're on to the most nerve-wracking task for me and my shaky hands, being adding a set of pupils to the eyes. After accomplishing an okay result, I can lock them in place using some UV resin. And the final step is gonna be adding the eyebrows, which I made off camera. And that's us not done. Since after last week's somewhat successful mission of creating my own glass, I wanted to challenge my inner glass maker by making a wine glass this time. And with the most masculine and testosterone fueled bit of the channel so far, I got myself a nice stem, which I can connect to the rest of the glass. And since during that time everybody seems to have not only a nicotine but also an alcohol problem, I filled my glass with some red wine. And with that glued in place, the sculpture is done. Alright, thank you guys for watching. Let me know down below which character I should make a realistic version of next. Leave a like if you've got at least one pinky.
And please subscribe, baby.
And I'll catch you in the next one. And I love you all.